In all the years that I have been coaching, mentoring, and guiding women through healing sexual trauma, I've noticed a very interesting correlation between sexual trauma and poverty. This has also been the case in my life. And there is a shift that happens in a person's finances whenever they address that sexual trauma. My name is Silvana. I am a Tantra teacher and the founder of the Venusian Academy, a space for the exploration of the divine feminine arts and Chakta Tantra. So, because this conversation is going to be related to sexual trauma, trigger warnings, please watch at your own risk. There might be some things that I say that are triggering. Keep in mind that this is a process that I already went through, so I'm speaking from the other side of it. But if you're still in the process of healing from sexual trauma, there's a lot of sensitivity that can be present with that. So keep in mind if something does trigger you, that I'm not doing it on purpose to be careless. I'm just trying to portray the point, to explain this very specific connection between lack of resources and poverty, consciousness, and sexual trauma. So I want to start by going over the complexity of sexual trauma. In my previous video, I talked about my definition of sexual trauma, which is any sexual advance that was received, that was not enjoyed, not welcome, or not understood. So because of that, under that definition, there are many components to it. There is oftentimes, especially if it happens when we are very young and we don't have a concept of our body and sexuality yet, there's a lot of confusion that can get created. And from that, we have to understand the energy in the simplest terms. From a very simple perspective is because of the complexity of the trauma, there are many effects, many symptoms that can tell us that there is sexual trauma. Maybe you don't remember, maybe it's something that you remember, but it's not clear, like what was the traumatic component to it. And this is something that needs to be addressed case by case, body by body, right? We all interpret information, touch, relationship in different ways. So one of the ways that we can see that there might be a potential of sexual trauma is if our finances seem to always be lacking. Why? Well, in the world that we live in, money is considered a synonym of power. It is also transactional energy. Transactional energy means that it is a bridge that allows us to move energy back and forth whenever we don't have the ability to do it directly, apples to apples type of thing. So in the transactional energy, there is a receiving and a giving of energy, receiving and giving. Now, whenever there is sexual trauma, there is going to be a trauma in the receiving of energy, because sexual trauma indicates that there was an energy that I received that I didn't want, I didn't understand, or I didn't enjoy. In the part of ourselves that receives energy, that receives attention, that receives resources, has a trauma, right? So we have to almost like break ourselves apart and see ourselves as the union and totality of many parts acting and interacting together. So if that is the case, then there is going to be an unconscious fear of receiving. You might be thinking, well, yeah, I don't want to receive touch, or I don't want to receive certain types of energies. I don't want to receive aggression, but I do want to receive money. The thing is, like, we are energy beings, right? So because money is transactional energy, it does require that we receive it and then we release it. A pattern that I've noticed with women that have experienced sexual trauma is that they are very good at giving energy, at giving money, at being generous. Yes, they are happy to discharge energy. There is an enjoyment in the giving. But whenever it comes to receiving, there is a very limited window that they allow themselves to receive from. And usually this translates into like, I can only receive from this very specific type of job that I feel worthy of, that doesn't pay me enough. Anything other than that, I don't receive. For example, I am a waitress and I work, and that is what feels safe to me because I feel like I am servicing and I get money for that servicing. But if a friend asks me out and she asks to pay for my stuff, I'm gonna be like, no, I got it. there is a discomfort, even coming from whoever, coming from men, coming from women, coming from people in general. There's always going to be a sensation of like guilt or shame or a tightness in the body whenever we are receiving and we have experienced sexual trauma. This translates in so many areas of life. But because money is something that is transactional in nature and we interact with it almost on a daily basis, that is going to be one of the biggest symptoms of this. So there is a duality that is experienced in the self, especially whenever we have gone through sexual trauma and that hasn't been healed or processed, or there's still a lot of energetic imprints from it. And the duality is that there is always a desire for receiving more, a desire for receiving love, a desire for receiving healthy sexuality, desire for friendship, desire for more resources and more money. But it's fighting with the unconscious fear of receiving. And usually whenever we have a desire and a fear, the fear is always going to overpower the desire, because the fear is triggering the survival response in ourselves. So first safety and then desires. So if there is a fear that's telling me it is not safe to receive, therefore I won't allow myself to receive, and you continue manifesting a reality where there's always this very tiny stream of line coming towards yourself, but life does demand that we discharge a lot of energy at the same time. So maybe your expenses do increase. Maybe you manifest last minute expense. Maybe like there's like the opening to give energy, especially when there is a lot of discomfort in the body, is going to get bigger and bigger, because I don't want to feel this, so I discharge through money. I discharge all this energy to spending money. But if I'm not allowing myself to receive, eventually there's going to be a dried up, and then there's going to be an imbalance. And then we have these vicious cycles of debt, vicious cycles of just constantly like making it at the last minute and just having enough, or maybe not even having enough, and accumulating debt, or not paying things on time, and all of this disorder and lack of energy coming in is spiritual dryness. So what is the water that lubricates the spiritual dryness? We have to start from the spiritual and then moving into the material. The last thing that we'll address here is money. Spiritually, right, whenever there is this dryness, that means that there's a belief that you have that money comes from this job, money comes from this system, money comes through me exchanging my time for money. And with that belief, we are putting our faith into the system, into our jobs, into people, into our bosses, into our clients. To begin breaking out of this process, obviously the most important thing to do is to address the sexual trauma. And remember that it doesn't have to be sexual trauma, doesn't mean that you were just violently raped, or sexual trauma under the definition of the law. No. Sexual trauma gets stored in the body with any sexual energy that came in that wasn't welcome, wasn't understood, or wasn't enjoyed. So all of that has to be alchemized. The beautiful thing about this is that whenever you move and transmute all of that sexual trauma energy, it becomes raw energy, power that you can use to create a reality that you want. It's energy. And it's the most potent energy because it touches your root centers. It is a forceful Kundalini stimulation, awakening. And whenever that energy gets triggered, the only way that you can release the trauma from there is by awakening, consciously awakening that energy and writing it and allowing it to purify the rest of your energetic centers. So it is a forceful initiation, but it is an initiation nonetheless, which means that you will have access to all that energy. So if you're addressing your sexual trauma and you're moving it from your body and it's no longer in your field, you are kind of repairing the part of your energetic field that receives in, that allows energy to come in. A lot of things get triggered in the receiving, right? There might be shame, guilt, disgust, anger, rage, discomfort, and all of those are connected to the sexual trauma. So whenever you heal the sexual trauma and you purify the emotions that get triggered by it, then there is space. And with space, we can begin the work of allowing ourselves to receive, not from the job and the people and the boss and the clients, but from the divine, through whoever the divine wants to send. This is also a work of faith and empowerment that I don't receive from the three-dimensional reality. My source of abundance is the divine itself. Mother, Father, God, the universe, source, oneness, whatever name you want to give, your connection to divinity, that is your source of resources. So you don't have to rely on this one thing that you have attached yourself to on physical reality, because life and the divine will find multiple ways of giving you what you need, but it can only give you what you allow yourself to receive. And if your opening to receiving is this big, because anything more than that feels like trauma and re-traumatizes you, then life can only give you like this much. But as you begin expanding and opening up for more and more and more, life is going to be able to give you through different means, whether that is through a new job or through somebody that helps you or through a bigger opportunity or through a business idea or through whatever multiple ways, creative ways life can find to give resources to you. It's only able to enter your life if your space to receive is big enough for what is it that you want. So the most important key element here is to understand that your resources are not dependent on physical reality. They come from the divine mother that will always feed you. It will make sure you always have shelter and your daily bread. Like, these are principles of life for being in this planet. And maybe we live in a system that doesn't agree with that or wants to knock that belief out of our soul, so that we can feel like we are dependent on the system and the way things are given to us. But a transcendental truth is that the divine provides, and it can only provide what we allow ourselves to receive. And if you want to receive more, you have to heal your sexual trauma. So if you're ready to take on this journey and you're ready to heal your sexual trauma and you want to do it in a contained and guidance setting, I am releasing a new course called Sexually Emancipated. It will go live next month, but I'm gonna have a waitlist sign-up sheet here in the description box below. So if you're interested in hearing more about this course, make sure that you sign up. This is going to be an 8-week journey where we're going to address sexual trauma and move it through the body using the technology of Tantra. Why Tantra? Well, because Tantra is something that allows us to weave in our healing with our everyday life. So it's not this separate thing that we're doing on the retreat or in the mountain or, separating 3 hours a day. It's something that you can incorporate in your everyday living. So as you are living your life, you can begin weaving and repairing those sexual centers and transmuting and alchemizing all of that sexual trauma into raw sexual energy that you can use to manifest your dreams, to receive more. Part of this process is also going to be healing the energetic opening so we can receive more by learning how to filter out energies that are not in alignment with our innocence. So this is probably my most powerful transformational course I've ever created. And there's going to be, you can do just the online course, but if you want to be supported and be guided by a group, by me, through a small group of people that are going to be also participating, I'm gonna be having also a group coaching category. So if you want more support because maybe things are very tender for you, that option is there as well. So check out all the information in the description box below, and I hope to see you in Sexually Emancipated.